So let's talk about something I think nearly everyone has experienced.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this.
You have a notebook, right? It's filled with all these new English words you've learned. But then,
Yeah.
the moment you actually need one in a conversation,
It's just gone. It vanishes.
it vanishes exactly.
Yeah.
If that sounds at all familiar, then you are in the right place. Today, we're taking a really inspiring look at the how behind real language fluency, specifically focusing on those techniques that move vocabulary from, a passive list in your head to confident, natural expression.
That transition is absolutely everything. We are talking about moving well beyond just passive recognition.
Right.
The material from RuiEnglish we have today is centered on that, highlighting two amazing success stories, Anna and Daniel, who use these lessons to just, transform their outcomes.
And it sounds like it's a very energizing and practical look at how this all works.
It is. It shows how intentional learning leads directly to success.
So before we dive into their uplifting stories, let's maybe revisit a core principle from the lesson material.
Okay.
It's this critical difference between learning a word and really using it. Because if you don't get that distinction, we can get stuck, just perpetually collecting words.
You get stuck in the collecting phase. Precisely. We have to frame this correctly. So, learning vocabulary, that's receptive knowledge.
Okay, so I'm interpreting it.
Yes. You're interpreting the word when you read it or hear it. It's a conscious effort. You're filling up your toolbox, so to speak. You recognize the word when it shows up.
So if I see, say, the word comprehensive in an article and I know what it means, I've learned it.
You've learned it, yes.
Yeah.
But using vocabulary, now that's expression. That is where the magic really happens.
That's the next level.
It is. It means you can deploy comprehensive effortlessly and, more importantly, correctly in a sentence. You can adjust its form without even thinking about it.
Without having to do that mental translation first.
Exactly. You stop filling the toolbox and you start actually building with those tools. That process, that acquisition, is what really defines functional fluency.
And to make that jump, the lesson is really clear that, simple translation is often not enough, especially for words with a lot of nuance.
Oh, definitely not. You have to pick the right technique for the right concept. The example of the handrail versus the banister is so perfect for this.
Okay. Explain that one.
So a lot of learners might see both words and just sort of visualize a staircase. But a good vocabulary technique forces you to see the difference.
The specifics.
The specifics. A handrail is the part you actually grip. The banister is the whole structure, the handrail, the vertical posts, everything.
I see. So if you confuse them, it shows that your understanding is just a little bit shallow.
It reveals a gap. So the right technique is the one that forces you to engage with that nuance to build a foundation that's strong enough for active command.
Exactly. Which brings us, I think, very neatly to our first success story.
Yes, Anna's academic breakthrough.
So Anna was a university student in Brazil, and she was, and I think we can all relate, just drowning in academic English.
A huge volume of information.
Imagine getting a stack of research articles, needing to understand them deeply, but the vocabulary feels inert. She could recognize it, but she couldn't use it to form her own ideas. That's a huge barrier.
It is, and it creates so much stress. She knew she had to move into what the lesson calls the active develop phase of her learning. So she got strategic. She used 3 very targeted techniques.
Okay, let's unpack those. How did she start connecting all these new concepts?
First, she used spidergrams. They're basically conceptual mind maps. So instead of just listing words, she took a core academic verb, like analyze, and then built outwards.
To related words.
To related words like evaluate, interpret, and examine.
Oh, that's incredibly insightful. Because for someone outside of academia, those words might seem almost interchangeable.
They can feel that way. But the spidergram helped her see the subtle hierarchy.
A hierarchy? How so?
Well, she discovered that analyze was often foundational, breaking information down. But evaluate required a higher level of critical judgment.
So a deeper command of the material.
A much deeper command. The mind map wasn't just a list of synonyms. It was defining the degree of intellectual effort for each word. And that allowed her to choose the most precise word for her essays.
Which instantly elevates her academic writing.
It completely elevated her command. It made her vocabulary functional, not just descriptive.
Wow. Okay, so what was the next step for her?
Second, she adopted personalization. This is a key strategy from the RuiEnglish lesson on using vocabulary in real life. She just stopped practicing with generic sentences.
And started using her own life.
Exactly. She created examples tied directly to her workload, even her stress points. Like, I need to analyze this new data set. before writing my comprehensive report next week.
So she's creating an emotional connection to the word.
Yeah.
It's tied to her reality, which means it's much more likely to be there when she's under pressure.
Precisely. That personalized link builds really strong retrieval cues, and then for the long term, she used mnemonic visualization.
So making a mental movie for the word.
That's a great way to put it. To make these abstract academic words sticky, she would picture herself as a detective analyzing clues. The word became an action, a vivid image.
So every time she needed the word, that mental image of the detective would just pop into her head.
It anchored the definition for her, and the payoff was it was remarkable.
What happened?
Within a few weeks, Anna was no longer translating in her head during seminars. She got up to present her research and just explain these complex ideas with real clarity and confidence.
And her professor noticed.
Her professor actually praised her articulation. It confirmed her transformation from that passive recognition to an active, empowered command of the language. It's a genuinely inspiring outcome.
It's profoundly enriching. It shows that vocabulary only becomes a tool for success when you live it, when it's customized.
Yes. And that brings us to Daniel.
Right, Daniel. His story shows how these same principles can lead directly to professional success. He was in customer service, and his goal was to sound more fluent and more polished with international clients.
He needed to get to the master phase of vocabulary acquisition. His challenge wasn't just general conversation.
No, this was executive communication.
Exactly. It requires high-precision expression and quickly. So Daniel focused on forcing specific, high-value words into his active daily use.
And what advanced strategies did he use to get that professional polish?
He took a very embodied approach. First, he used physical action. It's an advanced technique where you physically act out words with gestures.
Physical action, you mean like literally acting out the word?
That's it. For a word like collaborate, instead of just memorizing a definition, he would mime working side by side with someone or sharing a document.
That's fascinating. It's like you're building muscle memory for the word, not just a mental memory.
You're bypassing that cognitive loop. You create a physical trigger. Second, he set up what we can call the Word of the Week challenge.
A targeted usage strategy.
He'd pick a strategic verb, something like strategize, and then he would commit to using it correctly at least 3 times in real conversations that week.
So he wasn't just waiting for the word to come up. He was actively hunting for opportunities to deploy it. That's motivating.
It's motivating, but as you said before, it's also high stakes. You have to get it right with a client or your manager.
Right. It forces high-fidelity recall.
It does. And third, he used what might be the ultimate retention tool, teaching to learn.
Yes. You only really know something when you can teach it.
He would reinforce his own understanding by explaining the nuance of a word like strategize to a colleague. It forces you to distill the concept down to its core.
And all of this practice led to this one moment, right, in a team meeting where it all came together.
It did. The vocabulary just slipped naturally into his speech.
Okay, let's try to paint a picture of that moment. I'll be the manager in the meeting. You be Daniel.
Sounds good. I'm ready. I'm Daniel.
All right, so Daniel, thanks for synthesizing that client data. What's your proposed path forward for our Q3 planning?
As Daniel, thank you. Well, I've reviewed the quarterly reports. And while our current approach, it is yielding some incremental return.
As manager, yeah.
As Daniel, I believe we're really underutilizing our international partnerships.
As manager. Okay, so what are you suggesting?
As Daniel, I think moving forward, we should proactively strategize a completely new approach to improve collaboration.
As manager, strategize and collaboration.
As Daniel, specifically, maybe a weekly sync to avoid redundancy and, streamline our outreach.
Yeah, as manager, Daniel, that's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Highly impressive. That input is invaluable.
And you could just feel the shift, right?
100%. To get that immediate positive feedback in a professional setting, that must be so empowering.
It absolutely is. The big takeaway here is that Daniel didn't just know the textbook definition of strategize.
No, he owned it.
He owned the word. He deployed it perfectly, elevated his communication, and established himself as a serious contributor. He made vocabulary a living skill.
That is just such an uplifting progression. So when you look at both Anna's academic success and Daniel's professional advancement, the pattern is it's crystal clear.
It is.
Their success wasn't an accident. It was the result of a deliberate move from vocabulary as this, passive notebook activity to a real-life active application.
Achieving what the lesson calls master command. The framework consistently emphasizes that intentional reinforcement. You have to use the words.
Not just recognize them.
Not just recognize them. This intentional practice, whether it's Anna visualizing her words or Daniel physically acting them out, that's what builds the strong neural pathways you need for fluency.
It turns what can be a tedious chore into this dynamic, energizing process of self-improvement.
That's the real essence of these success stories.
This has been an incredibly inspiring look at what's possible when you apply these techniques. Thank you for walking us through Anna and Daniel's journeys.
It was my pleasure, and maybe for everyone listening, here's a final thought to mull over.
Ooh, okay.
We saw how powerful techniques like grouping and visualizing words can be, but let's take that a step further. I want to encourage you to think about another technique from the lesson, the DDIR technique.
DDIR, what's that stand for?
It stands for Define, Describe, Illustrate, and Rephrase, a 4-step process.
So it's not enough to just know the dictionary definition.
Not at all. So here's the challenge.
Yeah.
The very next new word you decide to learn, don't just write it down.
All right.
Apply DDIR. Define it, sure, but then force yourself to describe its nuances. Illustrate it with a personal story or example, and then finally rephrase it in a few different contexts.
That sounds like a real workout for a single word.
It is, but just imagine how much faster that word will become a permanent, active part of your professional or academic toolkit. It's about truly commanding your vocabulary.